Hi, this is Mike Hendrickson from OSCON 2014 in Portland, Oregon. I'm here with Omri Gazit. Omri, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. So you're with HP,
I am.
and you gave a keynote this morning. Can you kind of give me the highlight of what the keynote was and what the message you wanted to have everyone take?
Sure. I talked about bringing the cloud or the open cloud to the enterprise. And for us, we think about the cloud as something that we really want to invest in, to create an open platform around. And OpenStack is the project that we chose to go put our energy behind since it already had a lot of momentum. And it really is quite a successful project. It has over 100,000 commits from over 2,000 developers and across over 200 companies. So we're very pleased with the momentum that OpenStack has had so far. And we've been in it since early days. We've really contributed pretty heavily. And in this last release, the Juno release cycle, we're actually number one in both commits and reviews. But the more important thing is that there are 200 other companies in OpenStack, and we're all working together as a community to go build a better cloud, an open cloud.
So your Helion product or project, is it a project or a product?
Helion is really a brand name, but it encompasses two products, Helion OpenStack and the Helion Development Platform.
Okay. And so the OpenStack itself is your cloud instance, or?
Yeah, so Helion OpenStack is our distro. It's our OpenStack distro. So think a little bit back to Linux, how enterprises used to try to just get all the code from upstream and try to build their own distributions, and quickly found out there's a lot of subtlety in doing that, and started working with vendors to basically give them the best of Linux. And we think of OpenStack as in a very similar position to how Linux was in the late 90s, early 2000s. And so HP's Helion OpenStack distribution is what we think of as probably the most accessible and most faithful upstream distribution that there is for OpenStack today. Other vendors choose to innovate in things like the console or the deployment system. We actually invest heavily upstream in those things. So the Horizon project of OpenStack is the console project, and we've chosen, instead of creating a proprietary console, we've chosen to invest in the Horizon project. And likewise with TripleO as a deployment system, that is the native deployment system in OpenStack. And we feel great about the fact that we've been able to do a lot of this work with the community and actually have the most faithful distro out there for OpenStack.
And so then your Helion developer platform is a bunch of tools, or what is that?
That's a great question. So the Helion development platform is actually both runtimes and tools for building new applications, cloud-native applications on top of elastic infrastructure. So there's really two layers there. There's a Cloud Foundry-based PaaS layer. The Cloud Foundry is a successful open source project in and of its own right. It focuses on the PaaS layer as opposed to the IaaS layer. And we basically make that work really, really well with OpenStack's application services. So think database as a service, the Trove project, messaging as a service, and so on. And so we create a very nice binding, a tight binding between Cloud Foundry at the PaaS layer and OpenStack on the IaaS layer. And so that development platform gives you all the runtime and the tools integration for being able to create cloud-native applications and have a platform that is elastic and scalable and gives you the agility that people are looking for today. Trying to bring the CI/CD, the continuous integration, continuous deployment model that a lot of the websites use to the enterprise. So we really think that those two products really kind of change the game as far as the cloud is concerned for the enterprise.
So now you're saying for the enterprise, but you actually have two kind of models here, right? You have an enterprise edition and you have a community edition?
That's correct.
What I heard?
Absolutely. So our community edition is the free edition, and it's free to license. You can run it on your data center on top of any hardware, not just HP's hardware.
Is it limited in any way, or?
It scales to about a rack, and that's not a limitation that we put into the software. It's just that basically OpenStack, it's difficult to make it scale beyond that, and our commercial edition actually adds a fair amount of work around it to scale, and for HA to basically configure it to be HA out of the box and to be secure out of the box. So, think of it as our enterprise grade OpenStack in the same way that other vendors have, their community edition of Linux and their commercial enterprise grade versions of Linux. We think in the same way about OpenStack.
Okay, so where do you think this is going to go in the future with you guys and Helion? Where would you like to see Helion be next year at this time?
Well, first, we'd love to see the OpenStack project continue to grow and succeed. And so far, we've seen a lot of growth. We're very pleased with how far it's come in the last 4 years. But we'd love to see it really kind of break the enterprise barrier. And we want to actually see a lot more enterprises become successful running the open cloud, because it's not just enough to actually go build it in an open community. In the end, the proof in the pudding is whether or not you actually have people running it.
Exactly.
So we'd love to see more and more enterprises get into OpenStack, whether or not it's our distribution or anybody else's, because we really think that bringing the benefits of the open cloud transcends any one company. It's really about a movement. And we'd also love to see our distribution gain more appreciation, more momentum. And one of the nice things about Helion is that you can run our distro on your in your data center on your hardware, but you can also consume it from us. We can give you a dedicated rack or 2 or 7 in any one of our 80 global data centers. And by the next year, we think that we'll complete the rollout for a substantial majority of those data centers to be running Helion.
So do you guys obviously work with a lot of large enterprises, and when you think of enterprise, a lot of people think of HP and they have a whole solution set from you guys. Do you think the barrier to moving to cloud-based technology is technical, or is it cultural and organizational in a lot of these enterprises?
It's a fantastic question, and I think it's a little bit of all of the above, really. Yeah. The technical barrier is that OpenStack is really still in its early days. And when we talk to enterprises about what they like about the cloud, they talk about agility and TCO, but they also have some real blockers. So one of the things that they worry about is getting locked in, and all of the prevalent cloud platforms are all proprietary. They may host open source inside. I call that using open source tactically, right? But they're not built as open platforms, and that is something that enterprises really look for. They really want to find an open platform, and they worry about mission criticality. They worry about being enterprise grade. So they worry about security and high availability and scale and all those things. And finally, they want deployment choice. Right? They don't want to just have to run in somebody else's data center. That's a lot of the public cloud vendors talk about cloud. They say, well, it's cloud as long as you're running in our data center. And enterprises typically say, no, that's not how life is for us. There are some applications that will never move outside of our data center for a wide variety of reasons. And so they want that deployment choice. So I think that's a very big barrier for a lot of enterprises to cross that chasm. And with Helion, we chose to focus on those 3 things. So openness and enterprise grade and deployment choice. Those are the things that we chose to really focus on.
Excellent. Omri, we look forward to working with you guys again next year, and we look forward to good things from you.
Thank you very much, Mike. Pleasure.